G'day, this is Brian Medway, National Chairman of Crosslink Christian Network. That's a very high and mighty title, huge status, I can't believe it. Everybody wants to know my opinion. Oh no, that's not true. I have been around Crosslink for 20 years and we have seen some great times together and all that kind of stuff, and I'm looking for the prophetic unfolding of the purposes of God. I want to hear from God about what he wants to do and how he wants to do it, given the fact that we already have a record of his plan. We have it in the Bible. I've got one here somewhere. And it starts in Genesis and finishes with Revelation. But our experience starts somewhere, in the Gospels and finishes a long time after the Acts of the Apostles, and we have 2,000 years of church history to reflect on and just see how many times we've got it awfully wrong, and how many times, amazingly, by the grace of God, we've seen God do wonderful things in our earth. And I'm among those people who want to see that happen in my own generation. And you can see from this here that I've got too much grey-looking stuff up there, and there's not enough of it for me to feel confident that I've got time to waste. So, I'm trying to figure out how I can best use the time that I've got to better reflect the purposes of God on the earth, which brings us to the prophecy thing. And I talked in the first one of series, in the first one in the series, 1.1, Combat Ready 1.1, about Peter Nichols bringing a prophecy to the gathering that we had last year, and how after a couple of weeks, Klaus, a mate of mine, he said to me, "Have you thought about the prophecy and prayed about it?" And to be honest with you, I got to admit, I hadn't. There was a lot going on at the time, and I'd set it aside, and I'm really grateful to Klaus for this, because he set me on a journey, in cahoots with Peter Nichols, that has touched my life in a very profound way. Now, the prophecy said that we were to enter into a time where we were to become an army. We'd been a place of safety. We'd gathered around an identity. We'd belonged to that identity and belonged to each other. But now it was time to form an army, or at least to become equipped to get into battle. Now, this interested me when I listened to it, maybe 6 or 8 or a dozen times, and wrote it out and read it and prayed over it and all those other things. And, the things that it spoke about were an army to fight battles and win battles and so forth. Now, that is actually in the Bible, about winning battles. And so I determined that the only way for me to gain a practical or pragmatic understanding of what this meant was to go to the Scriptures and read the Scriptures to see what God could be saying, and to allow the Scriptures to bring light to this prophetic word that Peter had brought. And so that's what I did. I just set myself to read and reread and study and pray over and meditate in Ephesians chapter 6. That's the first place I went to. In Ephesians chapter 6 it says, finally be strong in the Lord and in the power of his might. Put on the full armour of God. Put on the full armour of God, so that you may be able to stand against the schemes of the devil. For our fighting, or our wrestling, or our contending is not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, powers, spiritual darkness, and spiritual forces in high places. So it says stand firm in that power, and then it talks about the 7 weapons, and the 7 weapons are number 1, truth; number 2, righteousness; number 3, the gospel of peace; number 4, faith; number 5, salvation; number 6, the word of God; and number 7, all kinds of prayer in the Spirit. And so I've read that many times. I've thought about it a lot. I've heard lots of sermons about it and so forth. I know all the elements of a Roman soldier's armour, and can quite easily believe that Paul could have been in a little house somewhere in Rome or somewhere else, and there was a Roman soldier standing next to him, and he's just writing this down and taking this metaphor as an illustration of a battle which he wants us to win. And it guarantees that we will win, because if we put on the full armour of God, it says there, the full armour of God, then you'll be able to withstand against the schemes of the devil. And having done all, having done everything, having put on the full armour of God, having contended with the full arsenal of God's equipping resources, then at the end we will be standing and the devil will be not standing. We will be ascendant and the devil will be defeated. Now, that's an unusual concept. And one of my problems was that when, in my experience over the years in seeing this taught about, I heard so many wacko things about, all kinds of little rituals like putting on the armour and all this sort of stuff and going out, and if you put on the armour you go out, and it just didn't seem to be either biblical. And Jesus never once did that. Jesus didn't get up in the morning and say, right boys, here we go, put on the belt of truth, put on the breast. Nowhere, neither did any of the apostles at any time, not even once. And so how come we've adopted these little funny little ways? The second thing about fighting battles was, we've just been through a political battle in our nation that's been very divisive and very abrasive and very destructive, to do with same-sex marriage and all that kind of stuff. And the way this battle has been waged, and I have a lot of respect for many people and a lot of effort and a lot of money that was put into a campaign to maintain a view about marriage that simply is the reflection of what Jesus said in Matthew 18, where he says, from the beginning God made them male and female. Who would have ever thought that was going to be a contended idea? And that a man shall leave his father and be joined together to his wife, and the two shall become one, so they're no longer two but one. Those whom God's joined together, let no one put asunder. And so Jesus was speaking in the context of not giving a lecture on marriage, but answering a question about divorce. And so he reaffirms this idea that marriage is to be between a man and woman. So, this is a long way to get to here. But so after the meeting that I talked about, the conference meeting, people came and said to me, are we going to be fighting on the steps of Parliament House? Are we going to be standing outside abortion clinics and all that kind of stuff? What are we going to be doing in this battle if that's what we're going to be doing? And so the battle was, couched by most people in a political situation or some other thing like that. And once again, not on one occasion did Jesus engage in a political battle, that is, to take over the temple, to take over the priesthood, to take over the Roman jurisdiction. Not even once. Not even once. Not even once did Jesus want to become the chief priest. Not even once did he want to become anything in human terms. So there's kind of like a disconnect here. Now, I am as much as anybody else wanting to see my city and our nation and the nations transformed. I mean, I don't even like watching the news anymore. In fact, I don't watch much news. I look at some on the web. I don't watch much news because I just hate what is going on, and I hate the way it's all, what do you call it? It's sensationalized and all that sort of stuff. And so I want harmony and peace and righteousness and goodness as much as any person in the whole of our community. And the gospel that I want to proclaim is not get to heaven this way and forget about the earth. The gospel I want is for a new heaven and a new earth. So the battle that I think about when I think about a battle is not just the battle for, oh, that's my alarm. Stop. No, stop. Cancel. Oh no, it's still going. Stop. Get out of there. Sorry about that. This is really professional. But so, the battles I want to win are the battles that are going on inside of me. I'm at war with myself. The battles that go on domestically, in families, in communities, in workplaces, in churches. I want to know how to win those battles, and we've been losing so many of those battles. Battles with moral, moral holiness and all that kind of stuff. I want to know how to win those battles. And if God is calling us to be combat ready, these are the battles that we need to be ready to have combat in. And we need to know how to fight, who to fight, what to fight, and how to do it.